Hello and welcome to my channel on human design. Well, we have some interesting questions in different ways today, and I'm going to start off with what I regard as a very important question. So this is from Eric Yescas. This is their question. Hi, Richard. I'm from Mexico. I hope you can translate and answer my question. It's about profiling roles. I'm a 1-3 profile, and I want to know if I both externalize and internalize as a line 1 and as a line 3, or if I only externalize as a line 1 and internalize as a line 3. Thanks a lot, Richard. I love your videos. Okay, Eric, thank you for that question. And it brings me, I said it's an important question because it is. You're using a homogenized language to try to interpret your profile, which is why you're getting confused. And, as 1-1-3 to another, that's fine. But let's just get it clear. The first line is insecure. It's looking for solid ground. It's the investigator that wants to go deep to find solid ground. And it digs deep. It finds out. The first line is always learning something. Aren't you, Eric? Me too. But it's not about externalizing. It's about the authoritarian side of you when you've really dug deep and someone says, oh, it's like this. And you go, no, it's not. I've looked into it. It's like this, and this. Now, the first line is insecure, as I said. It tries to get to a solid foundation in everything that it feels weak in. It wants to be strong. So if you say to a first line that's going, well, it's this way, and they go, well, because of this, and this, have you considered looking at it from a different perspective? The first line will go, interesting. Yeah, I haven't thought about that. Leave it with me, I'll get back to you. And they'll dig into it. Very different to the fourth line, and the fourth line is there to externalize whatever it is they've taken in. They will externalize it as they've understood it. They are not really open for debate in that sense. If someone disagrees with what they're externalizing and they're not getting through, then they'll move on to someone else who is more open to what they do have to externalize. So externalization is tied to the fourth line, not the first line. And if you're using homogenized language, you think, well, it's black in the chart, it's my personality, this is what I project out. Well, no, it's what you're aware of, it's what you identify with. I don't know your chart, so I can't be specific, but it's really you're here to really tell it the way it is from the research that you've done. And that's what it's about. The third line is unconscious. It's not about internalizing. I mean, when I think about the word internalizing, I'm thinking about, well, it's like a process. I've received information or I've learned something new and I got to process it. It's a big thing. It's like, okay, well, if that's the case, then okay, so that means that this is this and that is that. And it's like you're in process. That's one way we can talk about internalization from the homogenized language. But that isn't what the third line is about. The third line is about experience. It's about trial and error. It's about learning from one's mistakes and going deeper and discovering other things because you will have a go. It isn't about internalizing. You can say, well, internalizing is about someone's telling you something and they've explained it really well. And now you're internalizing it because you want to use that as your solid ground. It really makes sense what they've said. But again, that's about understanding. So what you're really using is it's the wrong words. And this is so important because there are a lot of videos out there. There's a lot of TikTok videos out there from people claiming to be human design experts that haven't really learnt the human design language. They haven't understood the importance of keynoting. And a keynote, whether it's applied to a profile, whether it's applied to a gate, whatever it is, that keynote will hold true. It is something that is always true. And if you're not using the keywords, or at least the meanings of the keywords, in your understanding of yourself or your translation of a chart, then you're talking generally. And the whole point of human design is to get to the point where we're using a language that is solid. I mean, Ra had 9 first lines. He took us to a solid foundation, and it's there in the keynotes. But you've got to know what the keynotes are, and you've got to interpret using them or using the meaning of them in your own words. So beware of generalizations, beware of the commonly accepted use of language and trying to apply that to your chart, because it simply ends up in the kind of confusion that you're in now. And it's very important. The human design is a science. It's not something that's woo woo. And it's like, well, you can believe it or not. You can be part of a human design cult or not. It's not about that. It's about the science. It's about the science and the languaging that's tied to the science. So important. So you have to separate yourself off from the conditioned language in order to really understand what human design is about. And a lot of people don't realize that. So there's a lot of misinterpretation. There's a lot of claiming this and claiming that because they think about it and they think, this is true. Well, if it's not in the keynotes, if you can't show me why it's true according to the science, then it doesn't apply. So this is why I said it's a very important question, because there is just too much generalization out there, and we end up with people basically talking nonsense and trying to persuade people that what they're saying is true. The truth has a ring to it. It's recognizable. It's always true. And you can indeed get to that with human design if you understand the system. And clearly, as a 1-3, you need to dig deeper. You need to find out about keynoting. You need to recognize that it's a science, and you need to use the correct terminology for whatever it is that you're looking at. So in terms of the 1-3, there are many different keynotes for the first line. There are many different keynotes for the third line. And it's understanding what they are. It's knowing what they are. It's taking that in and realizing that this is the way we describe what is true. Another keynote for the first line is that it is introspective. The behavioral identity in the 10th gate in the first line is the line of modesty. And the key for that is basically to know one's place. And the first line knows one's place. If you don't know what you're talking about, you don't say it. You don't say what you think if you haven't looked into it. If you ask any 1-3 about something that's really important to you and they haven't looked into it, they'll say, look, I haven't looked into it. I don't know. Find someone else who knows or give me time to research it. They're not going to bullshit you. They're going to say, look, I don't know. They know their place. Either they are aware of something or they're not. And the 1-3 is also very self-absorbed in their own life. That's also another side to it. But it's not the same thing as internalize. It's just the nature of what we are. A 1-3 is out there to dig deep and discover stuff. Depending on what really interests them or what they respond to or whatever it may be, depending on the type. So terminology, really important. A good thing for all viewers to remember. Get the keywording right and you'll be speaking the truth. Forget about the keynoting or you don't know it and you're going to be talking in a generalized way that it leads to confusion and misinterpretation. So thank you for your question. And it does show me that wherever you've got your information from, it hasn't come from a pure source. It's come from some collective, homogenized view of what the profiles are, and it's not correct. So get your information from people that have done the proper professional analyst training, and then you will get the truth. Then you will get the right terminology. Then you'll get the right interpretation of your chart. And that's a cue for me to again just say that I'm about to do a full professional analyst training on September the 3rd. And for those of you that have done the foundational prerequisite courses, you are welcome to apply to come on that training. Just go to my website and then go to the professional training website, which is available through my main website. So you've made a good point. Thank you, 1-3. Our next question is from Amanda Sandmaiden. This is her question. Hi, Richard. I have a question about emotional authority. I have the channel 4130 in red, so I'm emotionally defined. My wave isn't experienced as internally generated and certainly not consistent. I experience it as externally stimulated. A sense of possibility and hope opens by seeing something beautiful. Doors closing will trigger a feeling of disillusionment. On a daily level, I can nurture my sense of wellness by managing my environment, caring for my home, being in nature, avoiding noisy places, etc. I'm highly impacted by emotional noise. Being around someone in any kind of bad mood will cause anxiety. I have to work hard to manage. I don't experience anything I would call emotional clarity to make decisions from. It's more of a sense of truth. My best decisions have been made at the very bottom of my wave in emotional defeat, i.e., surrender, and the worst ones were likely from a high curiosity and invincibility. I've learned not to make decisions without sleeping on it. It's not that I'm never emotionally neutral, but it's that I rely on outside signs or synchronicity to come to a sense of clarity within. I suppose that's more of a statement and less of a question, but the purpose of it is that I love the idea of human design, and I can't quite resolve what it means to use emotional authority to begin the experiment. Can emotional authority be externally guided? Well, Amanda, thank you for the question, and let's have a look at your chart and see what's there. The first thing we see is that you are indeed emotionally defined, and there is only the 30th gate that is in the SolarPlex. So there's nothing else looking at it. It's purely this unconscious wave. So you do not identify with being an emotional person. It's something you can be completely unaware of, which kind of can be very surprising to you. You know, when there is this rush of excitement, of anticipation that it's going to be wonderful. And yet at the same time, how do you feel into your emotional waves if you're not aware that you've got them? It's a valid question. It's a valid question. And yes, it's about giving yourself enough time and realizing that you're a split definition. Okay. So what is defined in you consciously is the keeper of the keys. In fact, you have the full channel from the 14 to the 2, and then again from the 1 to the 8. So alignment, internal alignment from that side of you, aligned to the truth, absolutely makes sense. Aligning to synchronicities absolutely makes sense for you from that part of your design. Not wanting to be interfered with from others because of your individuality. That you're here to go your own way, that you're here to make your own individual decisions, beginning with what you respond to. So that's the key there. When you respond, when there's a strong energy towards doing something, you are, after all, a manifesting generator, then it's that you feel into whatever that response was. If it's positive in the moment, that's what you feel into. It's not like you're feeling about anything. It's about that response, that energy that's moved in you. That's what you feel into. You can be easily distracted emotionally with the 4130 because often, it wants to live in a fairy tale world, where everything's going to be wonderful and full of expectations. You mentioned about the disillusionment, or in human design terms, it would be the disappointment when things don't work out the way that you expect they will. So when you're really down in the wave and, the worst has happened, whatever that might be, that's when you go into the processing of the emotional channel that you've got. It is about processing because it's abstract. It's about processing what happened, how you feel about what happened, how you were mistaken to think it would be any other way when you look back on it. Or maybe it was something that you couldn't foresee. So absolutely, after the case, you can go into it and process it. But if you can do that before you take the decision to go into it, there are many things in your chart that show me that you tend to overcommit to too many things and have that burden that you have to carry. The conceptual mind isn't an anxious mind per se, but it has got the 24th gate in it, and the 24th gate adds a kind of surreal quality to things. We see that your cognition is feeling. So that's really the kind of the auric side of you that goes out and connects to the food that you want to eat. You make an emotional connection with it as part of the way that you decide what you want to eat. At the same time, you have nervous touch, so there has to be some stimulation around you in order for you to digest the food. And that can be watching a good movie. I understand that you can be affected by emotional energy that is on people that are in a bad mood. But think about why that is. You have an open spleen. An open spleen is someone who doesn't feel safe. The sounds that come when someone is kicking off in a bad mood, or the sounds that come in, you are highly sensitive to loud sound. Again, your chart shows that in different ways. So I can understand that you don't want to be around that because you will over amplify it. It can be frightening and be like, what's going to happen? When you see that you have a passive body and you are an emotional being, whether you recognize it or not, it's like, well, if I got to move fast, I might not. Then what will happen? Because the emotional ones, especially with the right bodies, do not want to be hurried into something. They don't want to jump into action straight away. It takes a bit of time. So that's something to consider. Your sense is fixed on security. Is it what's in the environment that could be dangerous? And again, with the open spleen, that can overplay itself. And you've got a natural suspicion in the unconscious fifth line. There's a certain paranoia that can be with the fifth line. And that's also built into the chart. If we add to that the motivation that is here to operate under the theme of need. So need is what is actually needed. What's the priority? What's the next thing that's needed? It can easily transfer to fear, which will be, doing things out of fear, trying to control the situation because of being over fearful. So I imagine that is something that's interfering with your access to your emotional authority because perhaps of something that's happened in the past, your experiences of getting overwhelmed by other people, of being interfered by other people, of being surprised by what happens when people can suddenly turn violent or whatever it is. I don't know your background, but I think that's all built into your chart at deeper levels in the way that I've indicated. I love the way that you care for your environment. You love walking in nature. This is all perfectly correct for you, given your chart. And also managing your sense of well-being. And that is something you have to manage with an open spleen. to have your pills and your potions, whatever it is that really works for you in a therapeutic way, in a way according to the natural laws. So herbalism or acupuncture or energy work or all kinds of things rather than pharmaceuticals. You know, you can easily go off balance if you're taking in some of the pharmaceuticals to keep balance because you can't handle a lot of toxins given the open spleen. So all this can add to, over time, can add to this feeling of um, there's too much else going on that you want to try to manage and you can't handle anything else. So to answer your question, can emotional authority be externally guided? The outside is going to be something that you're always connected to because of your cognition. But it's not how you make emotional decisions. You make emotional decisions through feeling into the response and through processing it before going into something, making sure that you don't overcommit yourself to things, making sure that you're in alignment with the truth and with the beautiful. That's absolutely true for you. It's amazing. Making sure that you are aligned to the truth and to the beautiful, which you are. So the two have to work together. The two sides of you have to work together. If it's a big decision, it might be useful for you to consider moving through the auras of others. You know, going to have a coffee at a place within a public arena where people are passing by, and the two sides of you can be joined up through the third gate, through the 53rd gate, for example, ways where your emotional side and your sacral side are joined. That can also help bring a decision for you. But it is to be processed, and it is to be processed in relationship to the response. So more experimentation needed. You're still not going to be conscious of how you feel until it comes out in some way. But certainly think about the desire. Think about what that channel is. You know, if something doesn't go away and you still want to do it, no matter whether you're down in the wave or up in the wave, you still want to do it. That is a yes. That is the thing to do, the one thing to do. It's the channel of recognition. What is the one thing that I desire, that I still desire? That's really where the big decisions come from, because that then takes you into action, takes you into commitment, and takes you into another part of your life. So these are all sides to consider. If you want to go into it deeper, then a reading with a professional analyst would be a good idea. But that's what occurs to me in my response to your question in the moment, and I hope it's been useful. So thank you for the question. And our final question for this episode is from a regular, Alves, who asks, I wanted to ask something about the design of forms. Do planets and stars also have a design? What a question, Alves. Well, many things I could say about that. For the first thing I must say is you need a time, date, and place of birth in order to use human design. So, in the birth of a new country, if you know when it was became that country, you can do a chart for the country, but you can't really do a chart for a star. Who knows when it began? And planets, you know, who knows when they became a planet? You know, when would you say that is now a planet? And these days, I'm pretty suspicious about what people are calling planets anyway. I think it's best just to drop the idea of a design in terms of human design or the design of forms for planets, because we are dealing with a very different phenomena. And quite frankly, as a 1-3, we simply don't know enough yet about the stars and about the planets. Though we may think we do, we really don't. So that's what I have to say on that. I will say that the stars do have a particular frequency to them, and they have a certain movement to them. They have a certain energetic about them. But it's not something that's going to fit into the human design system as it is now. And it's not something that we can get a chart of. In human design, we have the interpretation of the planets within our solar system, and there are certain aspects that we have in the planetary associations. So, for example, Mars as immaturity, and Venus as values, and Jupiter as your natural laws, etc. So we have certain attributes that we give the planets, and we can also talk to some degree about the stars and what they bring. But there's really a lot more to be considered when you're talking about the stars. And all I can say to you is each star has its own frequency. It has its own part to play in life as it unfolds in this universe. So thank you everyone for the questions. I'm sorry I didn't get to more of your questions. I'll have some more for next week that have already been sent in. But for now, I hope you've really enjoyed this. And if you have, please like, share, and subscribe. And I shall be back again very soon with something completely different. See you then. Bye for now.